Chapter 1. Kira stood alone beneath the autumn sky. The cool night breeze stirred her long, brown hair as she wrapped her arms around herself, trying to keep warm. Above her, thousands of stars shimmered against the blackness, silent and impossibly distant. She'd watched them almost every night, for as long as she could remember, yet they never seemed ordinary. They called to her, but she couldn't explain why. She was alone in the sentiment, however, as no one else in her village seemed to care about the lights in the sky. Except perhaps her sister. Everyone else seemed far more concerned with surviving another winter, finding enough food to eat, avoiding dangerous animals, or keeping the spirits from becoming angry. What a silly thing to worry about, she thought bitterly. Nothing in her 17 years of life had convinced her that these so-called spirits existed. Yet her village believed that everything in life was determined by their favor, and even claimed that long ago they had come down from the sky to create her people in their image. What an irrational idea, she thought to herself. When something happened, there was always a reason. Not magic, not angry spirits, a reason. If these spirits held such power, then why hadn't they healed her father? The thought pulled her gaze away from the heavens toward the faint glow spilling from her family's hut. For the past week, she had rarely left his bedside. Every herb she knew, every remedy the elders suggested, every desperate idea she could think of. Nothing had helped. Each day, his fever burned hotter, and with every passing hour, he slipped a little farther away. She closed her eyes for a moment. If Mother were still here, the thought hurt too much to finish. A saber cat had stolen her years before. Even now, Kira could still remember the screams, the panic, the blood. Some details faded with time, but never those. She drew a slow breath, forcing herself back to the present. She couldn't lose her father, too. Lately, his fever had done more than weaken him. It had taken his mind. When he spoke now, his words were nonsense, and his conversation only served to confuse and frighten her. Sometimes he didn't even know who she was. The village shaman claimed the spirits were punishing them. He insisted they should never have ignored his warnings before the last hunting expedition. While she detested the man, she had to admit that the last hunt had gone terribly. A violent storm had scattered the party before they found any game. Her uncle Druin had nearly shattered his ankle. One hunter returned burning with fever, muttering incoherently, the same way her father was now. Her father had gone to visit the sick hunter and became ill the next night, collapsing during the nightly storytelling. When he briefly came around several hours later, he spoke 3 words to Kira. 3 words that continued to haunt her days later. They are coming. Who was coming, she wondered to herself. Was he trying to say that there was another village coming to attack? She shook her head and dismissed the thought, knowing that wasn't the answer. Out of fear, the elders had sent out scouting parties to check for invaders. There were no invaders. No one was coming. The other villagers believed it was just his delirium from the fever and had decided to ignore his words. But she couldn't do the same. When he spoke the words to her, he pulled her close and looked her square in the eye with a terrified expression that shook her to her core. He had not been delirious the way he was now. He knew exactly what he was saying, and he meant for her to understand. But what did he mean? Kira? She blinked, the voice pulling her from her thoughts. Kaya stood beside her, hugging herself against the cold. Her sandy blonde hair danced in the breeze, while curious green eyes followed Kira's gaze toward the heavens. Kaya looked very little like Kira. She was a tall and lanky girl, standing almost as high as Kira, despite their age difference. Only 13, Kaya also seemed older than she was, being more mature than Kira had been at that age. Kira suspected that it was the harder living conditions that had forced her sister to grow up more quickly. When Kira was a girl, life was relatively easy. It wasn't until Kaya's 2nd year that the droughts began, and the food became less plentiful. Their mother died the very next year, adding grief to the starved conditions. "Why do you stare up at them?" Kaya whispered as she leaned against Kira. "Do they ever do anything different?" Kira laughed softly, wrapping her arm around Kaya and saying, "No." Kaya frowned before asking, "Then why do you keep watching them?" Kira hesitated. The answer came so naturally that she spoke before thinking. "Because I think I'm supposed to." The words hung between them. She had never admitted that to anyone before, not even to herself. Kaya looked at her with open confusion. "How do you know?" Kira shrugged. "I'm not sure," she said, as she looked back toward the stars. "I just know. Just like I've always known that you were supposed to be my only sister." Kaya frowned again. "What do you mean? Like the spirits decided it?" Kira took a moment to consider this. Shrugging, she said, "Maybe. All I know is there is something really important about those lights up there, and I think that I'm supposed to find out what it is." "You're really strange. You know that?" Kaya mused. This time, Kira didn't respond. Giving her sister a mischievous look, she pinched Kaya's arm before playfully taking off, running back towards their hut. Kaya giggled and chased after her. Thank you for watching the second episode of the visual novel, Chariots of Heaven. I sincerely hope you enjoyed it and are eager to find out what happens next to Kira and her sister Kaya. You can also read the rest of the story by buying the full-length novel, Chariots of Heaven, by R.T. Edwins on Amazon or Kindle. You can find a link to the book in the description. Otherwise, stay tuned for part 3.